Hello, I am a married woman in my mid-30s. I am a top sales representative. Many people assume that I am the top in insurance sales, but I am actually the top in another field. My first job was in sales for a manufacturing company that supplied agricultural machinery. After relentless hard work, I was able to earn the title of Sales King at my current company, which also manufactures agricultural machinery. I receive a salary of over $100,000, which is fitting for my title. While it may sound like I am bragging, my success is the result of my hard work and integrity. It is common for people to imagine negative aspects of salespeople, such as using unethical practices to secure sales, but I have never resorted to such tactics in my entire career. Instead, I have built trust and honesty with my clients, which has led them to choose to buy from me. I would sum up my approach as trustworthy sales. Honesty and trust are principles that I live by and qualities that I naturally look for in a man. However, in today's world, it is not easy to find someone with such strong principles, making me feel lucky to have met my husband. As I was on my way to success in sales, I met a man who caught my eye with his wonderful personality, highly praised by others. We fell for each other at first sight and worked hard to balance our love and careers, leading to our decision to get married. When I met his father for the first time, I was immediately drawn to him. He was a businessman who ran a manufacturing company that produced agricultural machinery. My husband was an executive who oversaw the production line at the company. However, as the future daughter-in-law, I was also working in the same industry as the sales king for their competitor, an agricultural machinery manufacturer. It was not an easy situation for anyone, as my father-in-law, a businessman, could be tempted to turn me into a salesperson for his own company. But my father-in-law was an upright man and an honest person without such greed at all. I heard a lot about you. Even if you weren't going to be my daughter-in-law, I honestly can't help but want to know more about you. You are very famous in our industry. To be honest, that's why I'm a little worried about this marriage. Worried about what? I have a lot of affection for my current job, because it's where I've worked since I was young. It's important to me. But that company is a competitor of yours, right? So I don't know what to do. Are you afraid that your husband and I might ask you to leave your job and move over to ours? There are many things to consider. In your position, you would have a lot of worries, because it is natural to share business secrets as a family business, and I happen to be an employee of a company which is your competitor. At my current company, at your company, and so on, you'll be very uncomfortable with other people's gossip and gazes. Well, I fully understand. It's a legitimate concern. I'm embarrassed, but that is my honest feeling. I love my husband, but I don't want our family to be in a chaotic situation, so I don't even know what to do. If you're worried about that, you don't have to worry at all. I have already told people at my company that the sales king of a competitor company would become my daughter-in-law, but I wasn't going to hire her and make her move to our company, so I warned them not to gossip behind your back. Father, my thoughts are this. Before becoming my daughter-in-law, I want you to know that your life is just as important as anyone else's. So, just because a competitor becomes your in-laws, it doesn't matter, and don't feel obligated to move to our company. Do what makes you happy. You are free to choose. As a father-in-law, I will support your decision. My father-in-law, who said he would respect my decision and still treat me with love no matter what choice I make, how could he be so understanding? I felt the depths of my father-in-law's kindness and upright character. I have fallen in love with my father-in-law's great personality. I was confident about my marriage. At the same time, I decided to do one thing. It was my decision to change my job as a salesperson to my father-in-law's company. My father-in-law, who heard my wishes, tried to stop me several times. He said, "If it's because of your husband and me, you don't have to do that. Even if you work for a competitor, you'll be given unchanging love." I have been working hard for my happiness, and I'll continue to do so. And I think the happiest place in my life is next to my husband and my father-in-law. I'll try to be a good daughter-in-law and an employee. Let's live happily ever after. That's how I got married to my husband, and at the same time, I changed my job as a salesperson for my father-in-law's company. Coincidentally, my father-in-law's company was also in a difficult situation due to a long financial crisis. I've always questioned that. I couldn't understand why my in-law's company was struggling, even though it had such a hard-working husband as an executive and a father-in-law with such a great personality as the president. That question was immediately resolved on the first day I went to work. The quality of agricultural machinery produced by the company was excellent, but the sales system that had to win the sales contracts was disorganized. I saw this as an opportunity to repay the love and affection I had received from my father-in-law, and I immediately started to improve the sales system. While passing on all my knowledge to the sales staff, I also went out into the sales field and did my best. As a result, sales performance improved instantly, and we went on a winning streak, pulling the company out of the crisis. It was a fast growth, day by day. Encouraged by this, I continued to strive for more sales contracts, while my husband continued to raise the quality of agricultural machinery. Everything was going well, and I was so happy. It seemed like this happiness would last forever. But fate struck us hard. My father-in-law, whom I loved, passed away suddenly from a heart attack. It was a situation where he couldn't even leave a will. In the wake of the sad news that followed, my husband and I didn't even have time to grieve the loss of the pillar of our lives. My mother-in-law, who had been sitting in the back room, suddenly took the place of my father-in-law as the head of the company. Why is it a problem that my mother-in-law became the president? It is only natural that the mother-in-law, the wife of my father-in-law, will succeed the presidency if it makes sense. To think my mother is the boss, I am really worried about what will happen to the company in the future, my husband said. Why? Did your mother do anything wrong to the company? Rather than being wrong, it was actually a mistake. What was it? Do you remember how difficult our company was when you first joined? Of course, how could I not know that? You know that one of the reasons for the difficulty was the broken sales system, right? Of course, I was the one who fixed it. Could it be that it was my mother's doing? Yes, my mother is very greedy when it comes to money. She took away all the sales-related budget alone. She was the one who broke the sales system. She almost got divorced by my father because he found out. Although she was forgiven on the condition that she would never touch the business or the money again. I see, that's how it happened. Then it's a big deal, really. What should we do if your mother makes the same mistake again? It hasn't been long since we survived from the company's potential bankruptcy. We have to wait and see. My mother must have reflected on her actions during the divorce crisis. But would she make the same mistake again? At that point, it was only natural that my husband and I were worried about my mother-in-law becoming the new boss, right? A few days after my father-in-law's funeral, on the day of her inauguration as the second president, our worries became a reality. It started with the first words of the second president, my mother-in-law, who stood on the podium in front of all the employees. There will be a restructuring of the company starting from today, she announced. All the staff and my husband nodded as if they had expected it. I felt the same way. When a company that has been running well, or a company that is on a sharp rise every day, a restructuring rather than expansion signals a looming dark reason. What it meant was that the boss was going to selfishly cut costs by reducing labor. My mother-in-law was the culprit who would devour the money saved from labor costs alone in the company. Both my husband and I had to face that. Despite numerous objections, my mother-in-law began to push through the restructuring she had announced in her inaugural address. The target was high-salaried employees, all of whom were top-notch skilled workers who had been working on an agriculture machinery production lines for decades. This was how my mother-in-law was trying to steal the reduced labor cost. I couldn't help but think that it wasn't a normal restructuring. In a normal restructuring, employees who were not good at work were given priority to the exit doors. But my mother-in-law was trying to fire the best skilled workers for the one reason only, because they were paid the highest wages. My mother-in-law's dark greed for money began like that, and because of her ruthless tyranny, seeing the names of top-ranking people with good abilities were posted on the list as the first targets for restructuring made my husband and I stop her somehow. In a company that produces agricultural machinery, does it make sense to throw out the skilled workers? Any elementary school student would know this. Without skilled workers, there will be serious disruptions in production, and naturally, this will eventually lead to the company's demise. It was bound to happen, so I had to stop it. Do you know what your management style is now? Yes. Is there something wrong with my ways? It is to nip the company in the bud. Whether the company goes bankrupt or not, right now, you only want to take the money out of the company. Why is it that you are always so serious? Pardon me? I'm doing this because I have thoughts and plans. It's ridiculous. But now our company is spending too much compared to when I was working. If we reduce it, we can kill two birds with one stone. The company will run a tight ship and your in-laws will also become richer. Isn't that good? Because the company is doing much better than when you worked, the expenses have increased. Because the order volume and production scale have jumped several times, of course, the cost will also increase. You still have to run lean on each and every one of those things to become a large company. You talk as if you know everything by yourself, but I am not that incompetent as a CEO either. I also have some company experience. It is not just my thoughts, but your son's thoughts are the same. Rather, his worries are much greater than mine. He is very worried that the production line won't work without the best skilled workers. If the production line is not working, it means that the production cannot be produced. So what do we sell to maintain the company? Haven't you thought of that? Anyway, why does a daughter-in-law nag at her mother-in-law? All right, I'll think about it carefully again, okay? What a lie when she said she was going to think about it carefully. I never thought people could be so incompetent and greedy. My mother-in-law answered me that she would think about it again, but she turned around the very next day as we underwent a drastic restructuring. Of course, the company was ruined, and as defective products continued to appear, a huge amount of transaction cancellation notices and returns were rampant. In the meantime, my mother-in-law was happy because the money was already being siphoned back. It was an uneasy situation, not knowing when the company might go bankrupt, and even the remaining employees might be kicked out for some reason. Even in the crisis that was like being in front of a candlelight in the wind, my husband and I received support from all the employees because my husband assisted all the inexperienced employees and maintained the production line. So at least the company did not have to close up immediately. And I was the sales king who somehow managed to secure sales with everything I had and somehow secured sales. Thanks to those sales, I even had hope that maybe the company would be able to overcome the crisis. But product defects continued to occur that couldn't be blamed on the novice workers in the production line, and because of that, I lost all my hard-earned sales contracts. In the end, it wasn't long before the company faced the crisis of bankruptcy. On top of that, I heard that you were supposed to be on a business trip to Southeast Asia, but did you stop by the casino? I only went for one night, dear. Just for one night. What are you really trying to do, Mother? Can't you see what's happening to our company? Don't raise your voice. It was a legitimate tour program that included a casino, and I just went and looked around, simply. A legit touring? Okay, even if I accept that, is it legit to blow $1 million overnight? Is that just the simple looking around to you? Well, for that amount, you can write it off as some spending money. $1 million a night is just spending money? I know exactly what the company situation is these days, and I know exactly how much business profits we make. But how could you claim $1 million is just spending money for yourself? Just because you claim to be doing a little bit of sales, why earn an annual salary of over $100,000? Even that annual salary is a fair price for my hard work. And I was even thinking of voluntarily taking a salary cut if the company continues to struggle like it is now. While I was doing that, you stole money from the company and spent it. What have you done? You're the boss. Is the company that difficult? My lord, are you asking because you really don't know? I really didn't know. Wait and let's see. But I'm still the president, and I can't let the company go bankrupt. My mother-in-law thought for a moment, and as my husband, and I watched her for a while, she was lost in her thoughts. I couldn't shake off my anxiety. It would be a plan proposed by my mother-in-law, whose greed was endless and even incompetent without any countermeasures. Even so, it would be an absurd plan, and I was right. Are there raw material costs that go into the production line? Why don't we exchange them for cheaper ones and save money? The moment my mother-in-law said it, my husband, who was sighing loudly next to me, got angry right away. Reduce raw material costs? Then we have no choice but to reduce the quality of raw materials, right? Do you know what you mean by saying that now? What it means is that the three of us should eat well and live well. You guys are very wrong to take me as a person who steals company money, but I'm not that incompetent. A company can only grow when it cuts costs, just like your mother. If you want to be treated as an incompetent mother, you should do something right. Something isn't right here. You kicked out all of our skilled workers, Mom, and now the product defect rate is skyrocketing. Are you really going to reduce the quality of raw materials for the production line? Don't you realize that this will only lead to our downfall? Are your business clients really that sensitive? Will they immediately notice the decrease in raw material quality? Aren't all agricultural machines the same as long as they run well with oil? Never mind. What else could I possibly talk about with you, Mom? But let me make one thing clear. If you lower the quality of raw materials, I won't stand for it. My husband and I have given up trying to reason with my mother-in-law, as we are constantly worried about the state of the company. However, my greedy and incompetent mother-in-law seems to be content, whether we are worried or not. In the afternoon, she makes appointments to play golf with wealthy wives or something. I can't help but wonder how much money she is taking from the company through these bets. My husband and I are at a loss for words. Then one day, a decisive incident occurred that caused us to turn our backs on my mother-in-law. The only reason the company has been able to survive her incompetence and greed is thanks to the dedication of my husband and myself, along with the remaining employees. My mother-in-law, who is completely unaware of this, seems to have her eye on my annual salary of $100,000. After stealing so much from the company, there is not much left for her to take. It's plain theft. I found out about her actions too late. I knew I hadn't been paid for months, but as a member of the owner's family, I shared the struggles of the company. I wanted to set a good example for the staff, so I didn't complain or urge them about not being paid. But my mother-in-law was stealing from me. When I finally learned the truth, I felt completely betrayed. The money she stole wasn't just any money. It was my dedication and hard work for the remaining employees who have stood by the company through its struggles. In the end, even my dedication was trampled on by my mother-in-law, and I couldn't tolerate her any longer. Even though she was stealing from her own daughter-in-law, there was no law to stop her from taking from the remaining employees. It was even more unbearable. How far do you plan to ruin it? How much more do you intend to show the bottom? Why are you even screaming about something like that in your family? Does it look like it is something not to be screamed about now? What else made you scream? For a mere lousy amount of money? How could you say such a thing out of your mouth? Even though I knew that the money has not been paid for months already, I have been holding back. It was to show the remaining employees that I, the president's daughter-in-law, was at the forefront of overcoming the company's difficulties, and to show my appreciation because the employees stayed with us. So, did the stupid employees even care? They only put out defective products and put the company into a crisis. It is not the employees who are stupid, it's you, Mother. What? Stupid. It's you, Mother. What? The raw material quality that your son was so against lowering? Don't you think my husband and I know that you secretly did it behind our backs? It seems like you think none of the employees know, right? All top skilled workers are fired, so the defect rate soars no matter how much we tell you. You don't even intend to listen, right? You are getting more and more arrogant when I try to accommodate you. Where did you learn to talk like that to your mother-in-law? You are so spoiled and mannerless to your elders. I guess you haven't heard that you'll be beaten for acting like that, right? Isn't it a situation where you would get beaten by the employees? You really don't know that the employees are on the verge of rebellion. How dare you talk like that? It's you who siphoned off the company's money, and you should do it in moderation so that the words come out nicely. Looks like you are doing this because of what I took from your salary. I'm not doing this with just my salary. When you steal your daughter-in-law's money without hesitation, then there is no guarantee that you will not touch the employee's wages. I have to cut it at the nips so that you won't at least touch the salary of the employees. So don't you know that I have no choice but to raise my voice? You should not do that in the family. Let's say I did take some of your salary and company money behind your back. We are a family, so my money will become your money, right? But what? What stealing is that? It shouldn't be like that between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Anyway, it is because we are family. Because we are family. Even if I say something you don't like, I have to do it. So I have no choice but to do this. Okay, so I'll return the salary I took, if that is bothering you so much. But take it as inheritance when I die. Why? It was so ridiculous that my husband and I just laughed. It was so absurd that I couldn't even think of anything else, so I just kept laughing. Behind the laughter came the emptiness. It was the futility of our efforts as a couple to correct such an unreasonable human being like my mother-in-law. And the only resolution we could come up with was that we couldn't live with my mother-in-law anymore. It was a decision. That day, even though my husband and I left my mother-in-law, we did not say a single word about severing our ties. Not only did we not want to be involved with her, but even if we declared our ties to be cut, my mother-in-law wouldn't understand. Soon after, an unexpected job offer came to my husband and me, who had been trying to heal from the exhaustion caused by my mother-in-law. It was an offer from a competitor that had been eyeing my husband and me. We made a deal to accept all the skilled workers who were fired by my mother-in-law. The company happened to be planning to expand its production line, so the management accepted our condition. That's how my husband and I moved to a new company, and we worked hard with our former skilled workers who joined the new company one after another. My husband worked as a foreman in the company's newly established plant and showed his outstanding abilities to the fullest. As a sales king, I was able to secure all my former clients who had left because of my mother-in-law. Right after my husband and I left, my mother-in-law's product defect rate became so serious that it exceeded 30%. After all of my clients were considering cutting off business with my mother-in-law's company. It was bound to happen, since my mother-in-law was blinded by her greed for money and had cut off her own talented children as well as skilled workers. Moreover, my incompetent mother-in-law caused it herself, and she deserved it. It seemed that my greedy and incompetent mother-in-law realized too late that the crisis in her company and her children's severing ties with her were her fault. A year passed since my husband and I left my mother-in-law, where we had been on a winning streak at the new company, and my mother-in-law appeared in front of my husband and me and pleaded with us after a long time had passed. There was some turmoil, but family relationships cannot be broken easily, can they? Well, we did our best, but do you know that it was you who rejected it? Do you know that it was you who rejected it? It looks like that. Looking back now, I was so foolish. I was complacent. What was foolish and complacent now? Weren't you a confident person who was not ashamed of any of your actions, whether others gave you their advice or not? That's it. No matter how I think about it, it was way over the line that I tampered with your salary. Do you really think so, sincerely? Of course, I am sincere. I forgot to say that I'll return your annual salary that I told you. I'll leave it as inheritance after I die. But I forgot to say that I will pay all the interest. In fact, the word interest was the most important point, right? Oh my God, it's her fault for forgetting to pay interest. If she truly realized what the matter was, she wouldn't have come in front of my husband and me, and she wouldn't have said anything. In the end, our couple, who couldn't believe her once again, reacted cynically. Then, my mother-in-law must have been desperate, as she started to whimper, almost crying and begging. Still, I am your husband's mother and mother-in-law. Are you going to send me to prison? Then would you feel at ease? Why prison? They said the company was about to go bankrupt. The world is so cruel. The person who is most upset about the company's bankruptcy is me, the owner of the company. But what is this about a white-collar crime of embezzlement and fraud? They say I have to go to jail. What is it? Of course it is. As the company goes bankrupt, there will be many contracts that have been violated. And the reason the company goes bankrupt is because you stole money from the company at will, because it's all illegal. That's why I'm here. There's a saying that it's better if you get used to it. Maybe they can give me a chance at least once. Faced with my crying mother-in-law, my husband and I thought for a while. Soon I had an answer to her appeal. I don't think it's the right expression to use in times like this to say that it's better if you can get used to it. I understand for now. Then, you're asking us to come back to your company and work. That way, the bankruptcy of the company can be prevented, and you won't go to prison. Geez, that's what I mean. Our answer as a couple to my mother-in-law's crying request was this. Yes, we got it. But there is one condition. Tell me anything. You say you'll get rid of my prison term, so what conditions can I not agree to? Didn't you tell me to get my stolen salary back as inheritance later? My husband and I have the same conditions. Later, after you pass away, we'll go back to your company. The unpaid salary will be returned as inheritance, but we'll pretend that the money is for your after-death journey expenses. Of course, there's no way your company will remain intact until then. It was in fact a refusal. The absurd words that my mother-in-law said while stealing my annual salary of $100,000, and the absurd words that she told me to take as inheritance of the stolen annual salary were returned to her exactly following her logic. Now, several years after the incident with my mother-in-law, my husband and I are still working at the company we moved to. We are doing very well because we were very successful. My husband is now a foreman for 2 factories, as the company has grown quickly. He is faithfully carrying out his duties there. I continued to work for the new company and became the industry's top salesperson. The company tripled my salary to $300,000. The sales I have made are enormous, so it is not a waste to pay that much salary. On the other hand, my mother-in-law is in a bad situation lately because she had to declare bankruptcy. She couldn't pay the bills for materials and wages for the workers. She ended up being charged with white-collar crime of embezzlement and fraud from breach of contract. Although she was given a suspended sentence and was spared prison time, criminals are just criminals. No one pays attention to my mother-in-law or helps her. She came to visit me and my husband from time to time, begging us to settle her payments that still remain in debt. Maybe my husband and I will never forgive my mother-in-law. My father-in-law, who must have witnessed all of my mother-in-law's ugliness from heaven, probably had the same thoughts as my husband and me. Thank you for listening to our long and complicated story. I hope everyone will become wise and wealthy. Have a day full of happiness. Please show your support by leaving a comment of wisdom in the comment section. Liking and subscribing would also be greatly appreciated. Have a wonderful day.